Greetings, friends and fellow aliens, and thank you for tuning in to this video. My name is David. I am an author. I'm an INFJ. I'm a guy that likes to talk about stuff online, and that is exactly what I'm doing here, and in particular, a topic that I find really interesting, which is turning points in your life. Basically, moments where everything changed. Before I even get into this, I'm going to want to see what yours are. So if you can get that ready in your head and throw a comment down below, I'd really appreciate it. What was a turning point in your life? I want to discuss this a little bit and how we can recognize them and see them coming and what we can do about them, if anything, and tell you a little bit about one of mine in terms of being an author and what changed everything as far as doing that and fulfilling a dream to do that and be a published author and to be, be somebody who's putting words down in writing. So get ready, buckle up, and let's go ahead and talk about it. Here we go. So turning points and how they turn and change you and change the winds and all of that kind of thing in your life in order to direct you a certain way. Maybe it's a calling. Maybe it's a traumatic event. Maybe it's just something that happened that changed it all. And it could be anything large or small. A lot of people would say the birth of their children is something that changes them. Absolutely. A lot of people say like a large move or a different career choice. Any of these things can be that seminal turning point for you in your life. But what is it when you boil it down? What's the one that changed your direction more than any other? That's what I'm really curious about. Now listen, we don't know when life is coming at us and coming at us pretty darn fast what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen a week or a month or a year from now. Sometimes we get into patterns where we've got a steady job and we've got a house and we've got our kids and all this kind of stuff. And you don't think that anything can possibly change or change the directions of the winds that are pushing you in any particular way. But it's that moment when things seem to be settled and fine that a lot of times, out of nowhere, here comes something that changes you drastically and changes the way you think, changes the way you see the world, you see other people, you see life or family or your own values and principles. It can absolutely alter everything that's going on in your head and in your heart. I don't even know if there's really a word for these moments. Life-changing moments. Well, sure, it's that. Like they're big events, basically. They are events that happen that affect you in such a way that it's almost impossible to think about and realize before or after it happens. In common culture, a lot of times these are called black swan events. And black swan events are those large global events that may happen that change the direction of the world, indeed. But we are, to a degree, in our own worlds. And so you have your own personal black swan events that happen. Those are those, and there may just be a few of them. There may be just one, or maybe you haven't had one yet. Maybe you thought you have, but you really haven't. But what are those things? And is it possible to see them coming? These are all really interesting questions. For my own, a lot of you on this channel, and I've documented it, are familiar with my story in terms of what happened with my brother. It was 2018. I was in a pretty steady spot in terms of work and life and just going day by day. And I'm like, things are calm. I have some stability. So let me get to something that I've always wanted to do, which was put down the story and write the book. And I started doing that. And then all sorts of weird stuff happened, and I ended up writing a different book than the one that I actually had in mind, which turned out to be The Caretaker, and finished that off. But I don't know that I would have finished it, as twisted and weird as this may seem to hear if my brother hadn't passed away. And it's not saying that that's the singular thing that propelled me to finish it, but finish it in the way that I did and make it the story that I made it. Absolutely. That was the event. You know, and it's probably the one event in my entire life that just came out of nowhere and I was not prepared for and changed everything. Absolutely everything. I'm a vastly different person today than I was before that happened. For better or worse, I guess. And it still changes everything because it's still something that I deal with every single day. So there's that too. But, you know, that was the moment for me as an author, at least, where I had to take stock of some different things. And I wrote to cope and wrote that book to pour out a lot of the things that were going on inside of my head and inside of my heart that I needed to get on the page because I needed to work through those things. And I wanted to do it in terms of storytelling because that's how I naturally work anyway. I'm a storyteller at heart. So, you know, that The Caretaker was all of, you know, between 5 and 10,000 words maybe in. It really wasn't more than a few thousand words in when I got the news that he had passed away suddenly and, you know, without everything was fine one day. And then the next day, your big brother is just gone. That's really hard. And I struggled with that for sure. And I knew everything changed right after that too, because that's when I experienced my first panic attack. Now, let me tell you, I remember the day I was sitting there in my living room and my heart was beating out of my chest. I was sweating. I had my hand on my chest thinking like, now is when it's going to happen. Like my heart is literally going to explode right now. And just like my brother a few weeks before, I'm just going to drop dead right here. That's what it felt like, but that's what panic attacks I've learned feel like. So, at least my version. And so everything was different. Health was different. My relationships were all different. Overnight, everything changed. And that was the moment that it just was a complete 180 for me, where everything was comfortable. And, you know, I could just kind of skip along through life to some degree. And then everything just got a lot more serious when that happened. And it did propel me to finish a book and wrote through it. And then that was a very cathartic thing for me. But when it was done, boy, that's when a lot of that emptiness hit, because I didn't have those words to put down anymore. I had written the words, "the end." What now? You know? And my father passed away a year after that. But that one, though it was short notice, we saw it coming because he had received a terminal cancer diagnosis and they said, "You got 3 months." And it was almost to the day, or it may have been to the day, 3 months as to when he passed away. But there was preparation took over, you know, and I spent a lot of time with him and everything else. And I was there by his side the moment that he passed. You know, that's very different. And it's a different kind of hit. I'm not going to say one is worse than the other. It's losing your father or losing your brother are two terrible things. But losing somebody in the blink of an eye, just overnight, unexpected. Oof, yeah, I wouldn't, that's different altogether. And so for me, that was the moment. And what I ended up doing was eventually turning that into something where it's like, okay, I used that to cope, but I finished a book and I'm an author now. And now I can keep writing because I know that I can get to the finish line on something. There's something deep within me that motivates me to be able to do that. Now, maybe it's just pain, and that's fine. Maybe it's working through issues. That's okay. Maybe it's exploring my own inner psyche and in some subtle way putting that into every story in the page that I'm writing. I am to a degree doing that in what I'm working on right now, which is Space Pew Pew. Let me throw it up here. Space Pew Pew, right? And even though it's comedy and it's in space and it's just all about humor, there are underlying themes with these characters that are very much themes that I deal with and that are close to me and issues that I've had. And I tend to work through, and I want to work through it in that sort of comedic way and make light of it. Self-deprecating. It's like the best. So that's a little bit about my story. And I'm curious if you had that moment that changed you either creatively or personally. For me, it was the biggest creative shift when my brother passed away, because it was when everything got more serious and I took things a bit more seriously and wanted to make an effort to hold myself up as somebody that somebody he'd be proud of, somebody that accomplished things, finished what I started. And I'm still working on that, but without that loss, that wouldn't have happened. And I would rather have him back, but life is what it is, and it throws these strange things at you, and sometimes you have to adjust your sails and go whichever way the wind is pushing you. So I'm curious as to know when the wind shifted for you, and what was that moment like? If you can tell me a little bit about it in the comments, I would really appreciate it. Once again, thank you for watching and all of that. I really appreciate you being here with me while I get some of these thoughts out and some of these feelings out. Please, pretty please, hit my website and you'll see a sign up thing for your email. I don't spam you or anything like that, but I would love to keep in touch with you just to keep you updated on the projects that I've got going on. Yes, there is a sequel to The Caretaker that is coming out. I don't have a date. It's not finished yet. I have it kind of on the back burner while I'm finishing up some Space Pew Pew stuff. So like everything is getting worked on and all of that. And I just appreciate you being here and connecting with me and love hearing from you. So feel free to throw a comment down there, especially if you're on Rumble. I would love to grow that a bit. So if you have a Rumble account, hop over there. And even if you don't, it's free. Head over there and follow me on there and say hi. And I will talk to you very, very soon.